Welcome to today's Conversation podcast. Today, I'm privileged to host Dr. Joseph Mushalika. You must have seen some videos that have gone viral, speaking to entrepreneurship, speaking to issues relating to, the education system in Zambia, speaking to just how Zambia can change. I'm privileged to host Dr. Joseph Mushalika from Build Zambia 2064. My dear brother, welcome to today's Conversation podcast, and I'm privileged that you found time to come and be with us.
Thank you, Ambassador. It's a pleasure meeting you and also being present on these very, very interesting conversations that you have been running. People need to be informed, and so people like you who offer that opportunity must actually receive the honor.
I was attracted to the various videos you give when I think you are mentoring maybe teachers, trainers, managers, and I thought you give very, very insightful points that are really not in the mainstream. So I thought that I'll be privileged if I hosted you and we discussed those thoughts extensively. But before we do that, just tell us, who's Joseph Mushalika?
Well, thank you so much. Joseph Mushalika is a Zambian citizen. I would love to use the word full-blown Zambian, with the privilege of having lived both in the urban areas of Zambia, as well as having been raised in the village in Zambia. I had an opportunity to go to school, both primary, secondary, and tertiary, and also enjoying work.
Where did you go to school? In primary secondary?
School, it used to be called a small school. It's no longer small. It's called in Namnunga Primary School. Namnunga Primary School is in Chief Mungule's area.
Not this prestigious Namnunga.
Not the Namnunga you know at Soweto. It's a Namnunga school in Chieftainess Mungule's area. It's no longer as rural as it used to be. In those days, it was a proper village.
Okay.
Yeah, with only 2 classroom blocks, 2 teachers only. Yeah, that was then. Yeah, so I went to that primary school. Grade 1 to 7. And after that, I was one of the lucky people to go to St. Paul's Secondary School, Mulungushi in Kabwe, run by the Marist brothers. Those days, St. Paul's was proper St. Paul's.
Yeah.
Had a lot of good experience there, learning life. And some of the issues you're talking about probably emanate from the kind of life we led there.
Yeah. And
having left secondary school, struggled to find exactly what to do. I think I grew up in an era where things were already beginning to be challenging. Do you want to be a police officer? Do you want to be a soldier? Do you want to be a lawyer? Or whatever comes first, I'll pick.
Correct.
Correct. So I proceeded to do training as a teacher. And I think rose through teacher training, primary, secondary, and then later on moved on to work for Plan International.
Okay.
That also gave me new insights. I had the privilege of being the education manager for Plan International Zambia for 9 years. And
Plan International, I don't know if they're still Canadian sponsored, but they're an NGO that had a huge presence
they're an international NGO.
And they are usually in rural areas, in social issues and development issues.
Social and development issues, yes. So worked for Plan for that long period. What I think was very critical for me was that Plan gave me an opportunity to do quite some traveling, because Plan in Africa is sponsored by Plan in the developed world. So I had the privilege of visiting those places that are developed, the people that were raising the money.
Did you manage to influence their programs? I was privileged to have worked in rural areas as a permanent secretary. And I used to get annoyed that, first of all, the approach of my central government to rural development and the partners in rural development, who will be organizations like yours, Plan International, that are in water, that are in maybe girl education, especially, and just, ordinary upliftment of our people. What would trouble me? Let me give you an example. I visited Luengu. It was under my district. And in my report, as soon as I reported to Northern Province, I looked at the report. Then I was looking at the failure rate of these programs. The biggest was Luwingu, where there were 67 brand new boreholes, but they were reported as disused, that they were not being used. Dug at extremely expensive cost. So I took a visit to Luwingu, and I did a tour. I asked the district commissioner and his technical experts, why do we have 67 new boreholes that are not working? So the technical guy who was in charge of planning tells me, sir, no one consults us. They just came and dug these boreholes, and the boreholes are not working. He says, okay, take me to one. So we walked to one, and we found it dry. No one is there. They opened it, and we pumped out water. Now the water was blood red, because the area has a lot of iron. So the iron contaminates the water. So that water is not even good for washing. It's not even good, therefore, for drinking. But someone kept on digging the boreholes. In fact, that year we had planned for 100 more. My point is, did you help in issues like that with Plan International? Because, you know, the programs look good, implemented and funded from abroad, and you just carry them out.
Well, I mean, that's one of the biggest challenges of working in a society where there's so much need. Because I think what I learned is that in areas where there's so much need, people have very little to say. You know, they seem to be available for anything that you can give us. You know, give us anything you have. You know, so whether it is the real need or not, they believe that anyone doing anything is to some extent helping them. So I think one of the biggest problems with international organization, the programs they do, is actually on both ends. First of all, you have a problem of unavailability of government staff. So we start from that end. You know, you have an availability of government staff. The person responsible for directing these NGOs on where the real needs, where the real issues are usually unavailable. Secondly, on the NGO side, they have a budget. And they have a time within which to spend that budget. I remember in my days, you could actually lose your job for failing to spend.
Wow.
Yeah.
What we call absorption capacity at technical level.
You would actually lose your job.
Yeah, you have told us there is this huge need. We have mobilized funds. These funds are not easy. Some is from taxpayers, some from funders, and they give it to you.
They give it to you.
Then at the end of the day, you say you haven't utilized it.
We've only used
50%. It appears criminal.
Then you are a problem. Okay? So you would get a person who wants to save their job. And so what are they going to do? There is very little government presence on the ground. And so you can just choose and say, I'll do 5 boreholes here, another 5 there, another 5 there, and maybe with very little community consultation. So you notice that the problem is at both ends. The spending agency, as well as those that are responsible for receiving support that is called complementary. Because NGOs are not here to run the country.
No.
They're here to complement what government is doing. So if the person you are complementing, it's like you want to escort someone and the person you want to escort is not available. Take a walk as an exercise. And you can walk in any direction.
There was another good example. An NGO came in the area. They hear we have a lack of safe drinking water. And they came to a village in Northern Province. This wasn't my story. It's an old story that in planning we keep on raising because it was a real story that occurred in the 80s. So this NGO came and dug boreholes where they found the community. They found that the community didn't have toilets. The community didn't have boreholes. And they said, no, people can't live like animals. And they dug these boreholes. When they came for review and monitoring, they found that both the toilets they had put up and the water, the entire community had deserted it. So they were very shocked. Where have the people gone after we provided this facility at great extent? So when they went back to the village, they were told, no, we'll go back. We do what is called chitemene. So we leave our villages during farming season and form farm camps. That's where then you people, when you came, you didn't ask us. You just dug these things. They'll be useful again. So you can imagine that in a period of 12 months, you provide expensive service where people only be camped for 2 months. Again, the disconnection.
It goes back to the disconnection. And this is why we say people-led development must not just be in word.
Yeah.
You know, we have deficiencies in terms of community engagement.
Yeah.
And it is not just at NGO level.
It's at national
Governments
level.
do the same.
Yeah, true.
You know, they will do what they think is development. Meanwhile, the people don't see it as such. You know, we had a situation in Wapula where we went to build toilets that looked better than people's houses.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and when we left, came back, the toilets were used as storage sheds for groundnuts, for cassava, and for everything else. And we were taught in very clear language. Nomba kutu muntu ayala amfia.
Ichikulu echawa mefi, correct?
Ichikulu echawa mefi. Anso engachali ichikulu kwenga tuwa kukirefyo mumwi.
Yeah, true.
Because the toilet was better
than even the houses they were living in.
So they really felt it was abuse of a facility to turn it into a pit latrine. So again, it goes back to where should we be starting from when we want to do what we call development. It's the same arguments. I mean, we'll be discussing them here. Throughout the era of Zambia's political independence, have we spent money on need-based?
In fact, this is where our debate will lead us to.
Yeah.
You began your work like any young man as a teacher.
Yeah.
At what stage did you think that you should leave teaching? At what stage did you begin to identify that something was wrong? At what stage did you recognize that we're stuck in a cyclical wrong things?
Yeah. Well, I got into teaching. First of all, I must confess that I was a very good teacher.
Yes.
You know, very, very good. I think just by first term, the pupils knew now they have a teacher.
Yeah, yeah.
But within the first term, I think I began to feel uncomfortable. And the discomfort was arising from routine. You know, it appeared you were not allowed to think, but you were there to comply. Okay? So compliance.
Because the syllabus has been designed for you.
The syllabus has been designed.
Teaching material has been given to you.
The staff meetings are the same. There's nothing context specific.
Yeah.
There's nothing context specific. So everything you do is within what has already been planned. And it is one jacket fitting everyone, regardless of where you are. And secondly, there was a lot of resistance in terms of thinking outside the box. You know, if, for example, the community where I went to teach, the children, 80% of them were children of fishermen. Okay? So late coming was rampant. Absenteeism was very high. And so I suggested, as a very young teacher, why don't we change the timetable?
Yeah.
Yeah, that we allow these guys to go do their fishing.
Because you won't stop them. Their parents won't.
Exactly. It's like the Mporokoso case.
Yeah.
Each day fishing. You
Yes.
know? When people want the caterpillars,
There's nothing
it
you
is
can
usually
do.
the time you're supposed to be writing grade 7 exams. And what reports do we get from Mporokoso all the time? We have 20 grade 7s, only 4 seat exams. Where did the 16 go? They went to fishing. Okay? So why didn't we tell ourselves, if fishing is an economic activity, they need to eat, they need to dress, they need money. So why don't we create a balance? Let them go, and then tell them, now that you have done this economic activity, come back to school. So we didn't seem to have that. And to me, that was frustrating. Yeah, that was frustrating because why am I sitting here?
Because the approach is to change society.
Exactly.
Not to conform to what could be good to society.
So that began to frustrate me. And I moved on, and I thought that getting a higher qualification would be a solution.
Yeah.
You know, so went back to school as usual. And I discovered that I was just an upgraded conformist.
You were still obliged to conform.
To do the same things, okay?
Yeah.
And so we struggled. I taught in government for 4 years. Then I decided to go to a private school.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was a bit more exciting. A few tweaks here and there, but more or less the same things. But I think for me, what was really frustrating was that early on I began to disagree with the curriculum. You know, I began to disagree with the curriculum.
What was wrong with our curriculum? What is wrong with our curriculum in your view?
My belief is that education is meant to make the graduate make sense of their environment. The essence of education is that the person who has gone through it must actually begin to use what they went through to begin to live and survive and grow. from the education system. So I began to disagree with things, the same things I did when I was in primary school. I was meant to teach the same things. I began to compare what I had learned in college, and it was not applicable to where I was. I'll give you examples. I am in a community of farmers. People here live by farming. And then I am told English language here is compulsory. Agriculture science is optional. And I'm beginning to ask questions.
It should be the other way around.
I'm beginning to ask questions.
Yeah.
What should be compulsory in this environment? Okay? If English is really important, yes, it is important. Yes, let us say everyone must learn English because you will not die here. You need to interact with others elsewhere. But the actual thing for livelihood is agriculture. Why is it optional? And then I began to question also the number of subjects. Okay, because then you have RIE, you have social studies, you have English, you have mathematics, you have PE, you have music, you have, and all these are being loaded on one child. The question is, what do you want this child to be? So they are getting bits and pieces of everything. They are learning about how Muslims pray, they are learning about Hindu systems, they are learning about rivers, they are learning about finding numbers, they are learning about, but at the end of the day, what exactly do we want them to be? And unfortunately, I'm okay with people gathering as much information as they can. But learning space, learning time is so little. I would be okay with providing information in books so that when people learn to read, they can look for whatever they want by reading for themselves. But time for interaction with a teacher must have value. You know, it must have value. I began to question early on why I should be teaching about the prairies of Canada and what they do in Canada instead of teaching about mining in Zambia. What has value for the Zambian child?
Yeah.
Is it to know about what happens in Mississippi, what happens, instead of talking about why are we not converting our copper into finished products? What process would it take to get us there? So I found that quite frustrating, okay? And then in addition to that, I discovered that we really had an inflexible system, very inflexible. You know, if we say you must pass maths and English, it is a must.
It doesn't matter how many subjects you pass. It doesn't matter
how many. If you have failed English, you have actually failed. Okay? Yeah. So I found that quite annoying, to say the least. I found that quite annoying and said, oh, look, no. I think for me, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
So when an opportunity came to work for Plan International, which was an education job, and they began to say, here, we want you to contribute to policy change, we want you to contribute. I thought that was going to be very exciting.
Yes.
And that gave me the privilege to see what other countries do. I'll give you examples. Bangladesh. You know, I went to Bangladesh to look at their school system, and you discover that young people who live on the plateau have a slightly different curriculum from young people who live by the ocean. Because they're living in different environments.
It's location specific.
It's location specific. You know, it's location specific. I went to Paraguay in Latin America and discovered that for them, specialization was something that began by second grade.
Wow.
Those who are already thinking, I'm going to be the next Pele, I'm going to be the next Lionel Messi, would spend more time with footballs and on the pitch than those who are saying, I want to be a medical doctor. Those would be spending more time
in laboratories
things. Exactly. So I found that very interesting. And we try to propose those things here. We try to talk about a lot of them. And yes, the Zambian education authorities have tried to reform this and that. But unfortunately, we have spent a lot of time changing names from Form 1 to Grade 8, maintaining the same content. You know,
Correct.
We have tried to change from basic school to secondary school, but we still maintain the same content. So I went
in fact, Doc, let's start from there. Our education system in Africa is criticized because the people that designed it, I think, designed it for a specific outcome. They just wanted someone who could read and write.
Exactly.
Someone then who could receive instructions. The education system was designed for workers they needed because they had a shortage of clerks, they had a shortage of bankers, they had a shortage of teachers, they had a shortage of health workers.
Yeah.
So they designed a curriculum that could respond to what they needed and their interest. 60 years old, this curriculum is failing us.
Yeah.
You know, every time I officiated at a graduation ceremony, I came out very sad.
Yeah.
Because all I saw were graduates that would be unemployed.
Yeah.
In fact, you have an education system that prepares people for unemployment.
Yeah.
Because they give you skills for jobs that are not available in the market.
Yeah.
So you're training these bankers, these clerks, but how many jobs are in this economy? And in the last 60 years, our economy has evolved.
Yeah.
It used to be highly formal. That's why employers could wait both at grade 12, Form 5 when you are finishing,
They're already
or
there.
at the university
Yeah.
or college. The employers were waiting for you. There was such a critical shortage of skills.
Yeah.
But now there is a flood of those skills, and that economy has shrunk. This call for decolonization of our education system, number one, and to make it relevant to our economy. What have been your thoughts?
You see, you've nailed it. First of all, if you are to understand what education is supposed to mean for us, you need to go to the period before the missionaries came.
Yeah.
Because education is about lifestyle. It's about integrating young people into a particular community and their lifestyle. So if you look at our history, what were we? We were industrialists in our own right. You know, our society was skills-based. Okay? So
Explain.
In every sphere of life you look at, the Zambian people, although it was not called Zambia, their lives were around the resources around them. So if they wanted to change maize into mealie meal, they made something from wood, which you can call a traditional hammer mill, vende or whatever it is. And these are guys who had no preschool education. But they knew if this tree, we can do it, we can create something, we can make another one which can pound this. And they used stones to crush millet. The copper that today we send away, those people could make axes, hoes, spears from them. They learned the art of hunting, the art of catching fish. They told stories. The school of medicine was the herbs. They knew what to do. You know, they could even run a village mortuary. They could keep a body for as long as possible using
our kings. You know, when our kings die, when Chitimukulu dies or any of the Bemba chiefs, you have to keep the body for 1 year.
Do you take them to the mortuary?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah. So that indigenous knowledge, we call it indigenous. But that was a way of life. What needed to happen was to keep enhancing those skills to catch up with what we call modernity. But when the missionary came, either deliberately or ignorantly, felt we were backward.
Yeah.
So like you said, they introduced a school system that was laid on two objectives. Let's create local missionaries. So what does a local missionary need? He just needs to learn how to read and write, so that he can go and preach to his neighbor. He can read our Bible. Okay? What else did they want to do? We need clerks, like you said. And so let's just teach them literacy, basic literacy and basic arithmetic. And in doing that, what did we do? We threw away our traditional curriculum. And that is why, as we kept going on and on and on, we actually began to look down on anything that had to do with skills. We began to think farming is for failures.
Yeah.
Farming is for old people. Crafts, you know. To date, you can go to a graduation where people have been learning ceramics, how to convert clay into colorful utensils. An honorable person like you will still go there and encourage these young people that you can now go to university, just do
be an engineer.
Why are you stopping me from doing my ceramics?
Yeah.
I mean, what is the contribution of the ceramic industry to the Chinese economy?
Wow. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
So why are you encouraging my child to quit ceramics and do law? To do what? Okay? So we threw our skills because we thought, wow, no, we are now elite. You know? And then we developed this, I don't know who brought it, white-collar job mentality. White-collar job mentality. And we were all encouraged, go to school, pass your exams, make sure you concentrate so that you get your job. And what did that result into? Rural-urban migration. So we began to leave our villages because some Muzungu had put a milling plant along the rail line. So you leave your village. You know, all the powerful, energetic young people disappeared from the villages. And today, those are the big farms owned by the same Muzungus who attracted us to the rail line, and they went to occupy our rich lands. And we went back there, not as farmers, but as workers, farm workers, with good titles. No operations manager, accountant, you know. So you are looking after layers, someone is keeping chickens. He's getting paid every day. As each hen lays, he's making money. You, the operations manager, you are keeping records to be paid at the end of the month. And you think you are being special, you are now an improved, civilized being. But that was the entrance of poverty through the attribute of throwing away skills.
In fact, white-collar, jobs is what attracts the entire population. We think that using your hands, manual work is dirty, is for the uneducated. And we think sitting in a bank or sitting elsewhere in an office is what then is termed proper jobs. And then in this economy, those jobs are not available. Or they are so few that maybe 1,000 is competing for one job.
Yeah, but I mean, Ambassador Mwamba, you in government for a very long time. If I were to ask you, which things would you list as economic drains? What is it that makes the country fail to stabilize? Salaries, personal emoluments, you know. This is one of the drain things that takes our money. And if you were to look at any country that you call rich,
the numbers there, Doc, are terrible. 50% of our national budget, especially our domestic revenue, pays civil servants, 200,000 of them. So 50% of your domestic revenue goes to pay 200,000
people.
And the question is, what about the 19.8 million
people? What's happening to them?
Okay.
So you can actually see already that this is a huge drain. Okay. I mean, we need them. We need the civil servants. But if we, of the 19.9 million citizens, a lot of them created their own jobs. Because I always tell people, when I go to villages, I tell them, look, do you want to know how to identify if a country is rich or not? Go to a shop and begin to pick items. If you're going to see made in Japan, made in, just know the economy is doing well. And that making comes from skills. So if you are going to see a packet of toothpicks made in China, if you are going to see a ceramic plate made in China, it is telling you something about their economy. Made in Indonesia, made in the UK, made in the USA. And if you're going to check throughout the shop and you're not finding, or you're finding very few things made in Zambia, that gives you your economic position. And when you use the word made, you have actually moved from theory to practice. And the moment you mention practice, you are discussing skills.
So what should be done, Doc? There have been various curriculum review. One famous one is one that started in 2013. But that one was immediately hijacked, especially by the Nordic, who were, I think, concentrating on sexual reproductive health and rights and comprehensive sexuality education. So they used the need you and I are discussing to reform our education system to then attempt, because I know we need money to reform, but they add their own foreign priorities to what they felt. So we missed an opportunity. There's been a published review of the curriculum, a new curriculum. I don't know how much input, I don't know how much you've participated in this area. I don't know if anyone from the ministry found time to invite you with your massive experience in this area, local and international. I don't know if you helped inform that debate. Because when I look at the documents, I'm still dissatisfied, like we haven't even done anything.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you. In fact, talking about 2013 is much later.
Okay.
The very first government that realized there was something wrong with our curriculum and school system was the Kenneth Kaunda government.
Ah, okay.
Okay? You will find a document called Education Reforms 1977.
Okay.
Education Reforms 1977. In the Education Reforms 1977, Kaunda's argument and his team was that, first of all, we needed to agree on the medium of instruction. Language issue. Okay, and so he said, first 4 years, local language of whichever area. So let's agree on a medium of instruction. And then he said, practical skills must be mandatory. In fact, according to KK and his team, they said the school production unit is not an option.
It must be mandatory.
It's mandatory because we want our young people to acquire practical skills. And he brought in interesting things. There was something called SHAPE, Self-Help Action Plan for Education.
Yes.
Under Self-Help Action Plan for Education, every school in this country had a toolbox for industrial arts. You were going to learn metalwork in class and practically. You were going to learn woodwork in class and practically. With all our mukula, with all our rosewood, we were actually well placed to be a country that is going to be known for exporting timber products. From that end.
Yeah.
Okay? 1977 education reforms, KK was emphasizing that it was the only practical way of diversifying the economy from mining to agriculture.
Using the education system.
Using the education system. Okay? KK, 1977. Yeah. He believed very strongly that diversification from mining to agriculture would only succeed if learners began from school knowing that every time you see popcorns, understand that they come from land. Begin to understand that an egg is not found in ShopRite. It comes from a chicken which you can keep at home. KK wanted that kind of transformation.
Yeah.
Okay? But again, like you said, we have people who have interest in our resources.
Yeah.
And they come dressed as funders.
Yeah.
You know, they come. And you guys in government, I don't know, when you get there, I don't know how you stop seeing. Okay.
Correct.
So
correct.
They come in as funders. And when they come as funders, what do? They select certain things.
Of their interest.
Of their interest. And that is one thing. I've never been in government at that decision-making level. I don't really know what happens. But something happens. One day we'll find out. It's like when you get to that level, you close your eyes, close your ears, and you want to hear the funder and not hear the real need.
No, it's very simple. This is something I've been troubled very well in my interaction with corporate team partners when I was permanent secretary and when I was at the African Union especially. If a donor wants to impose a program, I'll give you an example. There's currently a big international conference that will take place that is reforming the World Health Organization. There's a provision in the draft agreement that regional groupings like SADC, when they agree to a program that WHO is doing, the individual countries, the 19 individual countries, are mandated or obliged to obey. So SADC is run by a secretariat. It could just be 5 people who actually are dealing with that matter. So they will hijack those 5, brings them to workshops in Senegal, in Europe, and our leaders will be given this document without understanding it, and they will sign, and it becomes mandatory. Wow. So WHO is trying to, in light of the COVID-19 crisis, there are difficulties, the world shut down, people suffered. Yeah. So they're trying to resolve how quickly can we get treatment. But some of the provisions are taking away from sovereignty of countries, sovereignty of our people. If I'm a donor, I want a program at Ministry of Health, I'll go to the director who's in charge. And the director will push that agenda. You'll be in Japan, you'll be in Europe, you'll be in Geneva. And before long, that becomes national policy. I've always stated that I don't know how much our leaders know what goes on under their own ministries. I don't know how much our ministers know. But again, you ask, where do your ministers come from?
That's the thing.
So a minister, sometimes even uneducated, can be your minister. But you have a doctorate, you probably are even a professor. Who is easier to influence the other there? The politician might have political influence, but he has no knowledge or understanding. Gabamu have had $300,000 on this project. There's even a car for the project. The project will run. That project will run. Well, we may need another program just to interrogate how the bureaucracy is hijacked by many forces. Similarly, investors do the same. If I'm an investor in the mining sector and I want a mining policy to change, who do I target? So I target this person. Before long, it becomes national policy. So the various factors interact with powers that be. And before long, what you want as an investor, what you want as a cooperating partner becomes law in the country. And the owners of the country then get surprised. How did this become law? Who accepted it? You, Mwamba, you have been at ministry for a long time. How did you allow this? So anyway, that's another debate. So you have correctly put us to 1977, where Dr. Kaunda interrogated our education system and proposed these major changes. I think in the 80s, we saw some. We saw the introduction of, for example, home economics, woodwork, metalwork, and the creation of technical schools.
But what followed was that because we are examination-oriented, the funder, again, bought their way to make home economics domestic science, not really important. Industrial arts, some part-time thing, not very important. You never
explain the thought.
You never
explain the thought. We are exam-oriented.
Exam-oriented. Here is the thing. Our school system is packaged in such a way that you've got to be promoted to the next level by passing an exam. So the funder somehow succeeded in choosing which subjects will be important for passing to the next subject. Did you see a report form written best 6 including English? Best 6 including
English.
So you get a 1 in physics, a 1 in chemistry, 1 in biology, 1 in agric, 1 in mathematics. If you get an 8 in English, you can't go to university. As if you were writing physics in Bemba and other things. And we didn't seem to question all these funny things. So somehow they succeeded. KK pushes and says, I want these things to happen. But the people who deal with exams conveniently tell you there will be no exam in bricklaying. There will be no exam in pottery management. There will be no exam in this. The exam will be English, civic education, mathematics, RIE. And so by the time you are getting to examination classes, stop concentrating on non-examinable things. So we put away what really matters and put all our efforts on what is insignificant. So all our efforts have now gone to examinable things. And then the home economics, the agricultural science, at primary level, forget about it. You can do without this.
That's why in your video, you repeatedly say our education system just depends on memory.
That's all. That's all.
Explain.
I mean, look at it, Emmanuel. If you teach me how to formulate chicken feed, this is a practical undertaking. Every time I see sunflower, I see soya beans, I see maize, I'll actually be thinking, crush these things in these ratios and you formulate chicken feed. It's a practical undertaking. But if you come to me and say, look, in RIE we are going to learn about Muslims, you need to know that Muslims call their God Allah. You need to know that they fast, and the period of fasting is called Ramadan. And they have 5 pillars of Islam, and these are the 5 pillars. Memorize these things, they are very important, they will be there in your exam. Isaac Newton's laws of motion, the first law says this: without having anything to practice the law on, Chemistry. This is organic chemistry, this and this. When you combine this, here's how you balance the equation. Without teaching me how to make cachasu using this organic chemistry. It's based on memory. And that is why the moment you pass from one course to the next, you don't need to remember what you already passed. Yeah. You now memorize what is for the next course. So at the end of the day, the focus of the system is to create people who will be able to use their practice in memory to become good employees. Because the moment you become a worker, they will tell you, here, the order is like this. We report, we have a meeting, you write the minutes, you repeat the minutes in the next meeting, you raise matters arising, and we forget, and we move on. Okay? So people report for work every day, 365 days. If we were to measure the outcomes of that reporting, and that is why yesterday I was agreeing with President Ichirema when he was saying, it's not about 8 hours reporting for work, it's about deliverables. And I was saying, look, so how many people even understand what he means by deliverables? Because who in Zambia goes to work for deliverables?
No one. We got to report. Unless those in industries, at least production.
Exactly. Exactly. Unless those who go to say, today we are making 1,000 pairs of shoes. Okay, today we are making 2,000 bags of feed. Today we are making so many bottles of juice. Those are deliverables. But the government workers who are getting 50% of the national budget, what deliverables? It is more important to be present than to perform, because maybe there isn't even anything to perform.
Yeah. It's not performance-based.
No, it's not performance-based. Yeah.
So from 1977, the major one is 2013.
There was another.
Oh, tell me.
There was another. 1992, there was something called Focus on Learning.
Okay.
Focus on Learning. And I think President Chiluba at that time was also concerned. And he raised a number of issues. President Chiluba was one of those who questioned, why are we maintaining a curriculum that is producing people who cannot create their own jobs? He raised those questions. Okay? So there was a team of people that worked on something called Focus on Learning. And under Focus on Learning, they moved to something they called Educating Our Future. 1996.
What were the changes in the one in 1992 and the 1996?
The 1992 focus was, why don't we get back to what Dr. Kaunda was proposing? And one of the key things that came up, it was called localized curriculum. Localized curriculum, where we said, let everyone learn everything, but there should be something on the timetable suitable for a child in Bangweulu.
Okay.
So, under Focus on Learning, we also said we can now begin to bring community people into the school to teach indigenous knowledge. Very progressive ideas.
Well, this is where we first now began to see community schools.
Getting into, yes.
Okay.
So the idea was, if you live in Luangwa and people need baskets for carrying fish, the children in Luangwa must be given an opportunity to learn how to make the baskets.
Okay.
If you live in Bangweulu and fishing is the main industry, the young people in Bangweulu must learn how to do fishing. If you're in Mongo and there's rice production, the young people... So theoretically, we agreed to do that. Then it was packaged in a document called Educating Our Future. And Educating Our Future criticized the school system like no other document. You should find that document.
Wow. Yes.
General Mianda was Minister of Education.
At the time,
At that time. Okay? And the main issue was our education must be autonomous. It must address the needs of Zambia. Okay? So at that time we were saying, why is our education in silos? Grade 3 you do this, grade 4 you do this, grade 5 you do this. Why are we inflexible? Why are we talking about all these things? But immediately we agreed to do that. There was a new program.
Again.
Funded by the British called AIMS, Action to Improve English, Mathematics and Science.
A precursor to STEM.
Exactly. Action to Improve English, Mathematics
and Science.
Mathematics and Science, I can tell you to this day, meet anyone from education. We actually never did anything in Mathematics and Science. All the money went to English. Okay.
I see. The sciences were not funded.
This is where we started talking about new breakthrough to literacy, NBTL. Yes. We started talking about read-on course. We started talking about sight, step into English. We started talking about, and the schools were busy with breaking through to literacy. Very few scattered things under science.
Again, so all these programs again are being influenced by the funders.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the reason is they find us to be a very easy people to do anything with us. I'm happy with the explanation you have given. They find it very easy because all of a sudden you have workshops that ignore what you agreed to do and focus on what the funder is saying. Like the comprehensive sexuality education you are talking about. You know, I argued and said actually Zambia needs comprehensive entrepreneurship education. It doesn't
Not sexuality
need
education, comprehensive sexuality
needs
education.
entrepreneurship education.
Yeah.
So we moved on that score and then ran on 2013. Actually started around 2011. That's when we had another major discussion on curriculum reform. Okay, and there we said, look, why don't we have 2 career pathways? Okay, where we have a career pathway on practical skills and a career pathway on these other subjects. So English, mathematics, science, these were put on one side. And on the other side, we put music, we put PE, we put industrial arts, we put home economics, we put agricultural science. Brilliant. This was perhaps another huge opportunity Zambia had to have an education system that is relevant and responsive to the needs of this nation. But again, we did not take long before we got lost. We all of a sudden said, look, English, mathematics, and what are compulsory. Every school must do them. But from the practical side, pick only one. So if your school has picked music, then there's no PE, then there's no agric, then there's no HE. So who told you that when we talk about practicals, everyone must become a musician? Okay? So if your school has picked PE, you cannot pick another practical. If your school has picked agric science, you cannot pick another. So, and then...
Is it based, such an implementation, is it based on lack of human resource?
I'll tell you where the problem is. It's our timetable. How much time are you allocating to the practicals? Because if you believe very strongly that practical subjects are as important or even more important than the theoretical subjects, you should find time. You should allocate time for it. But we create a timetable which is so congested. Walk into any school, double period English, followed by double period mathematics, followed by biology, followed by physics, followed by chemistry, and 1 period PE.
In the afternoon, it might even be optional.
And we are very okay with that. Go to any forum.
No life skills, no practical.
Nothing. And this is why you look at any school examination analysis, there's no school that you are going to find discussing how are we doing in business studies. Because even business studies is taught as a theory. We go to define concepts. We go to, business studies is supposed to be a practical subject. We are actually supposed to give a class, a project to run a tax shop and show us that they have mastered record keeping. They have mastered how to calculate profit and loss and show us that they have known how to diversify, how to put products which are on demand in that area. We are supposed to be doing that. But we would rather go into a classroom and say, who is an entrepreneur? As long as you define that
and memorize it,
you have done business studies. Computers, which we included, computer studies. We are supposed to be seeing a situation where children are now saying, look, there is something I can include to make a computer more user-friendly. But what we do with computer studies is to label the parts of the computer. Get any examination paper for computer studies. Label the parts of a computer, name what the use of a CPU is, what do the abbreviations CPU stand for, and we think we are teaching computer studies.
No. We are teaching labels of the computer.
Exactly.
No software development. No even hardware development.
No evidence of anything in that regard. So at the end of the day, we find ourselves saying a lot of good things and failing to stand up, be courageous enough to do the good things that we are saying.
The new curriculum, I am a big critic of comprehensive sexuality education and sexual reproductive health. These are funded as 2 projects. and in the ministries, in the entire government, these two programs have the biggest amount at Ministry of Education and Ministry of Health. That's a debate for another day, because someone is trying to impose their own foreign values on our country using our children. But we have reformed. The new government said we need to reform our curriculum, that we need to decolonize it, we need to update it. And they've published the new curriculum. Have you looked at it?
Well, I have. First of all, I was happy to hear when President Hichilema went to some place and said, I don't want you to measure the intelligence of my children by how much English they speak. I want to see how they can learn to make money. I think to me that was very, very important. It was very fundamental. And I also liked it when he went to a group of youths and said, don't just think about employment. Think about how we can use the resources that we have in this country to create your own jobs. And Honorable Shakalima and his team, Dr. Kamoko, they began a process of saying, let's review the curriculum. Let's review the curriculum. Dr. Charles Ndakala at CDC, let us work on the curriculum. I have some things I don't agree with. You know, because clearly there are things that don't need debate. Things that don't need debate, let us remove them. They shouldn't even waste our time.
Such as?
Okay? So in this day and era, tell me, why are we not packaging information about Shaka Zulu in books that people can read when they have time? And not have my child sit on a table and start learning about Shaka.
And these military skills.
What for? Okay? In this day and era, I would be happy to see my child go to school and say, okay, I am from learning how plants grow in class. In the afternoon, I'm going back to plant some chihuahua and I'll observe what will be happening to it. This is the direction that I would be very comfortable with. Unlike a situation where to this day, we must still be debating, did we come from Proconsul Africanus? Were we Homo habilis? You know, which monkey was found in Kabwe? And this is the one believed to be an ancestor of Zambians. If we want that information, pack it in some books. Let people read on their own and decide whether it is something worth going for or not. What I don't agree with in the curriculum are things like, look, first of all, where do we want Zambia to be? And for me, if Zambia's economy thrives on mining and agriculture, we must find a way of making these two subjects in our curriculum. We must find a way of making these. How do we do it? How do we make sure that we teach mining? And our children begin to understand what exactly is this mining. Today, I mean, you have people flocking to Rufunsa, flocking to Mumbwa, flocking and getting our kids, and they're digging things. 2-3 years ago in Kasenseri, kids left school because things were floating on water in Mwinilonga. And instead of saying, the children ran away, hey, we lost a lot of man hours, we should be saying, look, they ran to this place because there's value. So why don't we begin to teach this value? Already, I agree with you. Comprehensive sexuality education. What do we want to teach? I'd be very happy with comprehensive entrepreneurship education. Embed these sexuality issues in your science subjects, and they must be age-specific. They must be age-specific and relevant to be learned. They must be relevant. So far, what is happening now is that there is a paper, there is a framework on the curriculum. It has been internally and externally criticized, with certain things agreed on and certain things disagreed on. But I think it still has to go back to the drawing board. I believe we need to start ground up.
Yes. The reviews are half-hearted. And change is a difficult process. People don't want to rock the boat and change. So they're just tinkling and twinkling, but no change really has taken place. And people need to relate to the current crisis. The youth unemployment, which is the biggest crisis, is because you have an education system that is teaching our children to wait at the end for a job. Nigeria will give you an education. They put a university in every state.
Yeah.
And they said, we don't owe you a job, but we'll give you the best education where you'll be employable across the world.
Yeah.
It will not be up to us to employ you. And, you know, that fitted very well with their tradition where they believe when you are an adult at age 18, you have to go abroad. So they responded very well to this need. Instead of getting an illiterate Nigeria going to the world, now they pack a Nigerian with a good education. At the AU, the technical staff will be from West Africa. At the UN, the technical staff. In Geneva, our colleagues are prepared for the world. Where does our education system prepare us to? To go and sit at home and wait for a job. And we, the politicians, are very deceptive. We promise jobs which we can't even create in the economy. We will go to University of Zambia students and tell them, I'll give you a job. Where will you get that job? They will not tell you that I'll give you an education that will make you create a job. And maybe you can employ others. Let me give an example, since I'm privileged to host you. If I'm training a doctor, why can't I train a doctor who also can own a hospital? In this country, you have 500 doctors that are unemployed. Yet the doctor population ratio is so low that we need doctors everywhere. But why do we have 500 doctors unemployed? Because they are waiting to be employed. Similarly, we have thousands of nurses that have been educated but are seated with skills. We need skills in these in our communities. But that link, because a nurse has been told only government can employ you. Engineers, for the first time we have engineers that are unemployed. The other day I had my brother Lungisan Zulu, who's the Law Association of Zambia president. He says he has 500 unemployed lawyers. So like you were saying, everyone is being taught, doesn't matter the skills, everyone is being educated to wait for a job. There is no innovation that is being taught. There is no business skills that is being taught. There is no entrepreneurship in our school system. Everyone has to be a worker somewhere. In fact, you are doing innovative things. It's nothing you learned from school. Ask any businessman. In fact, they learned, failed, lost money, learned, failed, lost money, learned, failed. There was no such opportunities to make those mistakes at school. So that when they emerge, then they will have made less mistakes. I laugh at my colleagues, they get a pension and think they can be businessmen. No, you'll be a destitute because that's a hard environment. You lose your money immediately. You know, because business requires you try and fail. Now imagine if there was such an opportunity to try and fail at school. So that by the time you are emerging as a graduate, you'll have succeeded. Our education system creates unemployment. That's my statement. I don't know how you take it up from there.
I totally agree with you. Totally. I mean, I don't remember the last time that education created employment. You know, maybe it was in our time when you trained as a teacher and you know postings are in March. You know, but after that, it became extremely difficult. And even now, we can pretend and think, somehow we create jobs. Jobs are not created that way. You know, what we should be thinking about now is, guys, let's sit down. Are we giving, like a colleague at ILO was saying yesterday, digital skills? They have become so critical. Digital skills, they have become so critical. Are we giving these skills to these young people? If we have done construction at school level, for example, are we creating an environment where the construction industry in Zambia will be run by Zambians? You know, are we creating entrepreneurial thinking in any program that we are doing? Because we have cases. I mean, I've had situations like Mr. Bean, the comedian. Mr. Bean was forced to be an engineer by the father, but he wanted to be a comedian. And when he had done his degree, he handed over the degree to the father and said, "Thank you, Dad, for the support. Here's the paper you wanted. I'm off to do my comment."
Or parents were guilty of that. We want to attend graduation ceremonies. My daughter or my son is a doctor, is a lawyer. So we give these prescribed standards to our children.
Yes.
In fact, children, if they are mechanics or they do other things, they feel like they are failures to their fathers because they didn't become engineers, they didn't become lawyers, they didn't become medical doctors.
So what we need to do, Emmanuel, is to open up. For example, give an example. You attended a funeral in Namwala. Yeah, I remember you attended one of the big funerals in Namwala.
Yeah.
Look at that cattle industry in Namwala.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that cattle industry. Tell me why I should be forcing a grade 6 child in Namwala who already has 200 cows to memorize Islam.
Yeah.
And then you are going to come up and say the failure rate in Namwala is so high. Now let's count the land cruisers owned by illiterates.
Yeah, the so-called illiterates.
In Namwala. And let's count the wheelbarrows owned by the educated.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Wow,
So,
that's powerful. That's powerful. Repeat that.
Okay. So let's walk into Namwala. Go and see the famous Nigerian roofs, in Mala area.
Yeah.
Go and see these kids who can literally walk into Toyota Zambia and say,
buy brand new.
How much is this thing?
Yeah.
And then your VITs on loan.
Yeah. To the educated lot.
The educated lot. So what should we be focusing on? So for me, just like the economy of the country, we actually now need to begin to think. A child in Mwinilunga, what kind of education would transform them to become a serious contributor to national development through their own personal development? Tell me, why should the honey business in Mwinilunga be in the hands of foreigners? As if bees also need to come from IMF.
Correct.
Why? It's because we have not taken the traditional route of saying, look, beekeeping here is a traditional hallmark. We understand it. So in the education system, let us make sure that they understand beekeeping. Okay? Go to Mongu, Kalabo, some of the best rice in the world. But if we took that to a scale and said, look, every school here is going to teach children how to do this, and they should also be learning how to... We were talking to a colleague from Korea, and in South Korea. He was telling us, look, guys, you Zambians are finding it very difficult to develop because you don't really have problems. In South Korea, we have real problems. We have a serious winter where we don't see anything green for 4 months. We have serious problems. Then he tells us, because of that, we are always thinking how to innovate. People in South Korea love watermelons. So when we discovered that the watermelons are dying because of winter, we decided to look for a crop that can survive. So we picked pumpkin. You plant pumpkins, when it has germinated, you cut it and graft a watermelon.
Wow.
Yeah, so you have pumpkin roots giving you watermelons at the end.
Wow.
You think Zambians can't do that?
They can.
We can. But we need a school system that promotes that kind of thinking. And so this is why I did a small book. I should have come with a copy.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
It's called Dead School Liberate Our Children. Dead School Liberate Our Children. And in that book I've proposed that, guys, let's get practical. Let's train our children in the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. What are we training our children in this school system? We are training them that sit on a desk. So for 16 years, grade 1 to university, they have been sitting. So when they graduate, they're looking for somewhere to sit.
Yeah.
And that's what you have trained them to be. Yeah.
They're not looking for somewhere to
they're not
to
looking
walk
for somewhere
and
to stand.
do and
No.
say.
They're looking for somewhere to sit.
You have remarkable phrases. So I think we are now 60 as a country. We are celebrating two issues.
Yeah.
Centenary, when we became what is called Zambia. From 1924, we had the first parliament. We had first form of proper government. So we are celebrating that centenary from 1924 to 2024. But we're also celebrating 60 years of independence, our Diamond Jubilee. What have we done wrong in the last 60 years? What can we do better? I am asking this fundamental question because you have formed an organization basically to address this concern.
Correct.
So speak to the organization you have formed and let's begin to share the thoughts of the mistakes we've made in the past and how we can make them. We can refuse to repeat those mistakes. And when we wake up in the next 50 years, next 60 years, will be a better Zambia.
Correct. Wow. Beautiful. I wish we had discussed this before we wrote our book. First of all, it's easy to talk about the mistakes, but we can also celebrate some successes. First of all, there are some certain things I talk about. I say 60 years now. Some of the good things we have done as a people is to have that wonderful motto of one Zambia, one nation.
Correct.
We cannot take that away. You know, to have that wonderful motto of one Zambia, one nation, so we are one people. And as Zambians, there's very little that divides us. We actually have more that unites us. So we are one people. Brilliant. And we must thank KK and his team for doing that at the beginning of our 60 years now. You know, to ensure that all Zambians have this belief, understanding, and passion for sustaining our unit as a people. We've done very well in terms of trying to develop ourselves a little infrastructure here and there. We've done well in self-governance, self-rule, but of course, there are things we have not done well. You know, if you look at 60 years of independence, that's quite a long time. You know, and I think our worst performance is in the area of economic development. You know, our worst performance is in the area of economic development. And why do I say our worst performance is in the area of economic development? Is because of what kind of country we are, resource-wise. Ambassador, we are too rich to be poor.
Correct. We are too rich to be poor.
We are too rich to be poor. Like
you have a wealthy country, but with a poor people.
Exactly. And why has it been like that? You know, because land-wise, we have millions of hectares of arable land. Beautiful land. Water, 40% of water, I'm told, in Southern Africa flows through Zambia. I love to say every tribe in this country has a river. You know, that is why even when we have a drought in one season, it shouldn't really be a funeral.
Correct.
It shouldn't be, because I think our capacity to irrigate is so high.
On the drought, I was speaking with a friend of mine where, you know, we're discussing this disaster. And he reminded me, he says centuries ago, Joseph was told by the prophet that you're going to have 7 years of plenty and 7 years of drought.
Yes.
Centuries ago, they prepared for drought for 7 years. We are modern. We have capacity to predict the weather. How can a drought translate to a disaster? It should never, like in Egypt's time, that the drought didn't become a disaster.
No, it didn't. It actually became an opportunity. Because that's how the Jews found themselves in Egypt. But I mean, you say you are modern. You're only modern in terms of the era you have lived in. You're not modern in your thinking.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So the fact that we are present today does not mean we are really modern, especially in our thinking. So look at our mineral wealth. You know, when we were in grade 5, grade 6, we all knew there's copper, there's gold, there's diamonds. We didn't even know there was something called sugilite.
No.
You know, these are new terminologies. We are like, there's something called sugilite. You know, those hills in Mukushi, we didn't know that's all manganese. You know, we didn't know these things. Okay? Look at our timber, our rosewood, our mukula, we are just too rich. Even if there's climate change, our climate is still relatively predictable. You know, it's not as bad as maybe it will be in the future. Okay? So given that scenario and the history that we are given, that at independence we were richer than China, you know, at independence we were richer than Singapore, at independence we were richer than South Korea, at independence we were richer than Malaysia, at independence we were... And the question the children should be asking us is, what did you fools do?
They should be demanding answers from us.
How How can you be telling stories of we were?
Yeah.
We were. Who took away what we had? Of course, we know there were political issues, economic issues, influences from outside and all that. But do we really have a backbone? Do we really have the nerves to say, you cannot walk into this country and make us poor?
Yeah.
So perhaps the things that we did wrong, and if we don't change, we might continue to do wrong, is that you guys on the political side are experts at creating a culture of dependency.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really know what benefits you accrue in making your citizens hopeless and believing and making them believe that we will do it for you. You know, as Build Zambia 2064, we have done a book. It is called Zambia 2064, a first world country. Our belief is that if we come together as citizens, we are within probation period to reach first world status by the time we are celebrating 100 years of independence.
Yeah.
So somehow we successfully created a culture of dependency. And this culture of dependency came in very subtle, sweet, testing language. We all of a sudden developed a language of, we will do this for you. You know, I don't want to take away from what KK did. He did a lot for Zambia. But issues like maybe he didn't have time to explain properly. Issues like you will have a glass of milk every day without explaining that you need a cow. You know, you have an egg for breakfast without explaining that you need a hen. They created the Boma Yanganepo mentality.
Syndrome, yes.
You know, they created this syndrome of government will do it. Okay? Issues of not knowing what to subsidize have created endemic problems. Okay? At a time when we were giving coupons for people to get free meal, we didn't maybe understand in depth what exactly the damage we were creating. And it takes time to correct some of those things. Okay? For me, the language of go back to the land should have been very strong. It should have actually been backed by policy. It should have been backed by support. Go back to the land. This is what we will do as you get back to the land. And then when we transitioned and moved on from one-party state to multi-party politics in our 60 years, again, there are certain things we did well. You know, there are things we did well. We corrected certain wrongs. But again, we continued with this entitlement mentality. You know, you remember that in the UNIP days, there were badges like your flag there written, it pays to be UNIP.
Yeah, correct.
You know, it pays to be UNIP. So just because I'm a UNIP steward, I can walk into NIEC and pick whatever I want. Okay? So when we took over, MMD came in, we found it a bit difficult to divorce from those tendencies. You know, we found it difficult to divorce from those tendencies. We can blame someone and say, this is how you damage Zambia. But these things have grown over a long period of time. So we failed to divorce from those tendencies when...
in fact, our entire political system, in collaboration and collusion with our people, we both should be blamed.
Exactly.
Doc, it's easier for me to go to a constituency, dish out money, dig boreholes, and tell them, vote for me.
Vote for me.
And even the people know that he's giving this to get elected, and after this he will disappear for 5 years.
Yes.
So even them, they will try to get as much as they can from you. Because I know you will disappear for the next 5 years. Will go. So you have a parliamentary candidate who pledges to build a road. It's not the duty of an MP to build a road.
You are a lawmaker.
You are a lawmaker to sink boreholes, to do the road, even to support, you know, these, to give loans. And now we are even entrenching them, for example, in CDF. The mindset has not changed.
You've hit it.
So there's deception from the type of politics we are doing. That's why if you do not have money, you can't go into politics.
No, you can't.
So it has become a predatory system, but it is hampering development for our country. It's hampering these visions we should have for our country.
Exactly. No, I mean, we should look at each other in the face and say, guys, look, we are growing old. Yeah. We'll soon die. What kind of country are we leaving behind?
Yeah.
Okay? So now we are celebrating Zambia at 60. There's actually much more to reflect on than to celebrate. Because again, that's our other weakness. We are celebration prone without reflection. We should be looking at each other. You know, Jesus Christ, before he left for heaven, called the disciples and said, guys, you have had free meals, nice sleeping, no sickness, no everything. But before I go, who do people say that I am? Okay.
Good evaluation.
Yeah, let's evaluate. So Zambia at 60, let's reflect. What have we become 60 years down the line?
I think that 2024 gives us an opportunity for a sacred reflection.
Excellent.
An honest conversation.
Yes.
Of what we've done wrong, what we've done right, and what we shouldn't carry on in the next 60 years. I think it's a reset button.
Excellent. Now, when you look at it, 2024 is a good opportunity. Why? Because it is giving us exactly 40 years to 100 years.
Yeah.
Okay? It's giving us exactly 40. And Ambassador, don't think 2064 is too far.
No, it isn't.
I can prophesy, you'll be alive.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I will be. I take it.
Maybe just around 90.
Yeah, correct.
You know? Yeah. You'll be alive.
Yeah.
First president of this country lived up to 96.
Correct.
Know? We have old men in the region, the Yoweri Musevenis. In the world, the Trumps still want to be president at 80 plus. Yeah. Why should we plan to die early?
Yeah, correct.
Okay? So the question we should be asking ourselves is, yes, here are the 60 years. We have had no civil war. Thank you very much. We have transitioned governments peacefully. Nice. We are still brothers and sisters. Yes, we have quarreled, we have differed a bit here and there, but we are still moving on. But guys, we can do better in the next 40 years. You know, we can do a lot better in the next 40 years. Because do we really want our children in 2064 to be celebrating 100 years of independence as political dependents? You know, I mean, think about 100 years of so many people not knowing if at all they have a meal. 100 years of still exporting minerals in their raw form. 100 years of a school system that is creating unemployment. 100 years. You know, and it is this time, 40-year journey between now and 2064. Let's hold a conversation. An honest conversation and say, guys, how can we become first world country by 2064? And that is why from the Build Zambia perspective, we have said, look, yes, let's do whatever we are doing. But I think we have a big job on the issue I've touched on, mindset. How do we get Zambians to look at the national anthem the second time and say, what were the aspirations of the founding fathers when they said, stand and sing of Zambia proud and free? Let's get to these words. Where is our pride as citizens? And how is our freedom? And when our founding fathers said land of work, what did they mean?
In fact, land of work precedes land of joy.
Employment. It's a, yes, land of work, peace and joy. It is put in a line. This is a land of work. And we need to get back to our young people and say, guys, what does land of work mean? Peace and joy. They told us Africa is our own motherland. Today, what is happening, Ambassador Mwamba? We have young people who are growing up in better homes, exposed to holidays. What do they say to each other? I'm done with school, I'm going to Singapore, I'll marry there and never come back.
Correct.
Willingly getting into refugee status economically.
We were discussing with, we had a huge conference at the African Union, and we were discussing this migration, and you know, every ambassador was annoyed that we had youths that were dying in numbers in the Mediterranean Sea, drowning. They would endure the walk of the desert and then try to cross, and they would die in thousands.
Yes.
My question was, why are the youths leaving our countries? I think before we condemn, before we ask Europe to open the borders, what are the youths running away from? Why aren't we providing the opportunities? Why do they see the opportunities in
Elsewhere.
Europe? And a friend of mine, the Japanese ambassador, tells me that was a good discussion, but there's another matter you people are not looking at. Why is there a high migration of Chinese, Japanese, Europeans into Africa? What are you running away from? We, the outsiders, are seeing opportunities.
Which you are running away from? Yeah.
There's a story in Mpulungu. A young man came, I think, from Somalia. He's one of the wealthiest Zambians now. He came with patapata. He saw a great opportunity on the Lake Tanganyika, and he built a warehouse to freeze the fish. And he's then multiplied his business from there. It didn't come with any resource. There was no one in Mpulungu to see the opportunities he saw. In fact, we begin to hate such businessmen because we think they're exploiting us. Why can't we see the opportunities that the foreigners are seeing? The numbers are good. Ndola, Simon Monsaka International Airport, has become the busiest airport in Zambia. There's direct flight from Qatar. There's direct flight from Dubai. There's direct flight from South Africa. There's direct flight from Addis Ababa. There's direct flight from Nairobi flying into Ndola. What opportunities are they seeing which you and I are not seeing? Probably that is where we have to. People think, like you were saying, our people, our young people, are leaving the rural areas to come and squat in Lusaka. The Bazungus are running to Chongwe, to Mumbwa, to Solwezi because they know there is gold. They know there is copper. Our communities are not seeing this. In fact, our communities are becoming wakers to these foreigners that are coming in this area. Give me whatever. And they give them very little money. But it has to be with our education system because we don't know the values of these issues. So I am privileged that I hosted you and that you came for this conversation. I hope that you can come for with your books, the 2064 book. We can come and do a 1 hour special on it. Doc, what are your last words?
Well, thank you, Ambassador. I didn't know. We've done 2 hours already. We need to be chatting more. Well, I mean, from the Build Zambia perspective, and in response to the questions you have asked, those will be my concluding remarks. We are saying as Build Zambia 2064, we cannot transform a country by leaving out its young people. So you'll soon be hearing, we have already started, we are running a program called Debate, Interlearning Institutions Debates. And the purpose of the debates is like you
didn't tell us, what is Build Zambia 2064?
It's actually a civil society organization. It's a civil society organization whose focus is on mindset. I mean, we have heard from the president of Zambia talking about, we need to transform, we need to change. Now, we need to find a way of translating that into reality. How do we get that done? So we have said, since the school system has not yet reached a stage of providing that space, we are going to say, guys, let's debate. Unfortunately, the Minister of Education has authorized us to do that. But these debates are context specific. So I'll give you an example. We had a debate between Roma girls and Matero boys, and the motion was for Zambia to attain first world status by 2064. Agriculture and not mining should be the main economic driver. And you could see how these young people have done their research on agriculture, how they have done research on mining. We'll soon be holding another debate where we have deliberately said for Zambia to develop, poor people should be exempted from paying tax.
Explain. That I can give you time.
It's a motion.
Yes. Explain. That's a
it's fundamental. A motion because how do citizens view ZRA? There's a very negative perception. And maybe the understanding or misunderstanding is these tax collectors, where do they take our money? So we know...
the bad news is the tax collectors are not liked from centuries.
Of course.
Even in the Bible, Zacchaeus.
Of course. But we need them. So now with new understanding and new thinking and all this, we want our young people to begin to say, oh, so if I want a road to my farm,
I need to pay tax.
I need to pay tax. So if I want improvement, if I want solar plants so that I'm no longer suffering from load shedding, tax. So we bring this debate and say, okay, now look, this is the way to go. So we are bringing debates on governance.
Okay, good.
Debates on politics, debates on climate change, debates on irrigation, debates on teen pregnancies, debates on literally everything.
Good.
And the whole direction is to actually get young people reconnect with their country. Because what is it that has happened? There's been loss of patriotism.
Yeah.
Very, very serious loss of patriotism. There's very little assertiveness. People can't speak. The education system is not helping. So perhaps if we can get all these things together in one box, and we are taking advantage of the environment where we are saying, guys, let us talk. Guys, let us discuss. Guys, let us move. And so even the law reforms that we are talking about, they're all going to get into debates. Because the young citizens need to begin to believe that they are more important than parliament. Okay, they're more important than parliament. They should actually be telling parliament what they want to be happening in their country. So it's a mindset transformation program. We are working with literally every citizen, corporate bodies, ministries. We are working with anyone who says, I love Zambia and I want Zambia to move to the next level. How can we do this together? In addition to the debates, we are also running what we are calling youth endeavors. Not at national level, not in Lusaka, at district level. So we must now go down to people in the districts and say, guys, let's discuss. How can you become the champions of beekeeping and honey production? How can in this community, it's not raining everywhere else in the country. How can you be the producers of the most maize to supply everyone from Kawambwa? So we would want to hold those kinds of conversations. So Build Zambia 2064, in essence, is saying, okay, guys, let us depoliticize development.
Yeah, correct.
Let us depoliticize development. Let's not see development through the spectacle of politics. Let us see development as a right which is fulfilled by ourselves making deliberate decisions to undertake what will bring that development. So basically, Ambassador, this is the direction we are taking. And it's going to be a long journey. But I think 40 years is good enough for us to believe that whether we'll be there or not, Zambia should be occupying a different status.
Oh,
than
wonderful.
It is today.
Dr. Joseph Mushalika, I'm privileged that I hosted you and encouraged this debate. Our country is stuck with irrelevant debate. The passions you see on social media and what they are discussing, can make your blood boil. We've lost the essence. In fact, when I call another politician that he has a big nose, a big forehead, I'll probably be quoted by newspapers. When I raise a policy issue, it will be ignored. That's the extent of the narrative in our country, that the important debates like the one you are doing is relegated to the periphery. The center is preoccupied with the petty. And I'm glad that you are trying to do the opposite. Bring the important issues to the center and let the gossip and the rumor mongering be on the periphery so that we can develop our country. And I wish that, our partners, companies, corporates, even ministries can support your quest. Because what you are doing is a very, very important undertaking for our country. And so thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
And keep on keeping on.
Please.
And to our dear viewers, we were discussing the education system and its role in national development. And I was privileged to host Dr. Joseph Mushalika. If I said it correctly. Mushalika.
Correct.
I don't like it when people say Mwamba, Mwaba. So they call me other names. Others just say Mwamba Chiluba.
Yes.
So it's very important that names are pronounced properly. So Dr. Joseph Mushalika was my guest today, and he provided good insights into this matter of our country. We are celebrating 60 years. We have a diamond Jubilee, and we're trying to focus debate just on these fundamental issues. Colleagues, let's have a reset button. What did we do wrong? What can be done right? Non-political. Let's just review our country and make our country better. So until next time, shalom, shalom. God bless our country. God bless you. And God bless you, Doc.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And until next time.